1754 BC. A massive black stone pillar rises in the center of Babylon, 7.5 feet tall, carved from a single 4-ton slab of diorite, one of the hardest stones known to ancient craftsmen. At its top, a relief image shows King Hammurabi receiving a measuring rod and ring from Shamash, the Babylonian god of justice. Below stretches column after column of cuneiform script, 282 laws carved into stone. This is the Code of Hammurabi, the most complete legal text surviving from the ancient world. Citizens gather to read its edicts. Scribes copy it onto clay tablets for distribution throughout the empire. The laws cover everything from business contracts to family disputes, from property damage to murder. The prologue promises to make justice visible, to destroy the wicked, to ensure the strong do not oppress the weak. But what follows isn't mercy. It's calculated brutality, justice without compassion, written in stone and enforced with the cutting edge of bronze blades. Hammurabi didn't invent law, he unified it. When he became Babylon's 6th king in 1792 BC, he controlled barely 50 square miles. Over 42 years, he conquered city-states throughout Mesopotamia, building an empire stretching from the Persian Gulf to modern Syria. Each conquest added diverse peoples with their own legal traditions, their own customs, their own gods. Chaos threatened to tear the empire apart. Hammurabi's solution was brilliant. Create one universal legal code that all subjects must obey, regardless of origin or tradition. He sent legal experts across the kingdom gathering existing laws. These were reviewed, modified, compiled into 282 statutes covering criminal law, civil law, commercial regulations, and family matters. Then he carved them into stone and erected copies in temples and public squares throughout Babylon. Now everyone knew the rules. Ignorance was no defense. The law was literally written in stone. The code's most famous principle is lex talionis, the law of retribution. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth. If a man destroys another's eye, his own eye shall be destroyed. If he breaks another's bone, his bone shall be broken. This sounds like equality, identical punishment for identical crime. But Hammurabi's code isn't equal. It's stratified. 3 social classes exist in Babylon: the Amalu, the elite property owners, the Mushkenu, free commoners, and the Ardu, slaves. The same crime receives drastically different punishments depending on the victim's and perpetrator's social status. Law 196 states, clearly, if a man puts out the eye of another man of the gentleman class, they shall destroy his eye. But Law 198 adds, if he puts out the eye of a commoner, he shall pay 1 mina of silver. And Law 199, if he puts out the eye of a slave, he shall pay half the slave's price. Justice isn't blind in Babylon. It has eyes, and those eyes see class before crime. Medical malpractice laws reveal the brutal hierarchy most starkly. A physician treating a nobleman who dies or loses an eye during surgery has his hands cut off. The same doctor killing a commoner pays a financial penalty. And if a slave dies, the doctor simply buys the slave owner a replacement. The message is clear. Elite lives are priceless, commoner lives have monetary value, and slave lives are disposable property. This isn't about healing or justice. It's about maintaining social order through terror. Doctors treating wealthy patients operated under constant fear. One mistake, one infection, one uncontrollable complication meant permanent mutilation. Medical care for elites became cautious to the point of uselessness. Meanwhile, slaves received treatment from practitioners who faced no consequences for failure. The code created a two-tiered medical system where the rich received timid care and the poor received reckless experimentation. Laws governing women are particularly harsh and unequal. Men can divorce wives easily. A husband claiming his wife is a bad wife can send her away without return of her dowry or make her a slave in his own household. If a wife brings charges of cruelty and neglect against her husband, she can obtain legal separation only if she proves her case. Failure means drowning as punishment for false accusation. Adultery, defined solely as a married woman having relations with any man besides her husband, is punished by drowning both participants unless the husband pardons his wife. But married men can freely have affairs with servants and slaves without legal consequence. The double standard isn't accidental. Women in Babylon are property, first of fathers, then of husbands. The code doesn't protect women. It protects men's property rights over women. Children also suffer for parents' crimes. Law 230 declares that if a builder constructs a house that collapses and kills the owner's son, the builder's son shall be put to death. Not the negligent builder himself, his child. A man's daughter can be killed as retribution for his crimes against pregnant women. The code punishes the innocent to maximize the guilty party's suffering. What breaks a man more than losing a child? Babylonian law weaponizes family bonds, turning love into liability. Parents must consider not just their own safety, but their children's lives before committing crimes. It's psychological warfare codified into law. The punishments themselves are grotesque. Theft can result in death or mutilation. A son who strikes his father has his hand cut off. A slave who strikes a free man has his ear cut off. False accusers in capital cases face execution, the punishment they sought to inflict on others. Barmaids watering down beer are drowned. Incest between mother and son results in both being burned alive. The code treats human bodies as raw material for displaying state power. Mutilation serves dual purposes. It punishes the criminal and marks them permanently as lawbreakers. A man missing his right hand announces to everyone, "I am a thief." A woman without her nose proclaims, "I committed adultery." The body becomes a billboard advertising crime and punishment. Rehabilitation doesn't exist. Neither does redemption. Just permanent, visible consequences. Yet amid the brutality, some laws are surprisingly progressive. The code recognizes contracts as legally binding and enforceable. It establishes minimum wages for various professions. It protects widows and orphans from exploitation. It grants women limited property rights and divorce protections unheard of in later civilizations. Slaves can marry, own property, and purchase their freedom. The code even includes early consumer protection. Builders who construct defective houses must repair them at their own expense. Merchants who overcharge customers face penalties. In some ways, Babylon is more advanced than societies that followed. The code contains seeds of due process, presumption of innocence, and property rights that modern legal systems still recognize. But these progressive elements exist alongside staggering cruelty. Justice and barbarity aren't opposites in Hammurabi's Babylon. They're partners. The stele was discovered in 1901 at Susa in modern Iran, where it had been taken as war plunder 1,200 years after Hammurabi's death. French archaeologist Jacques de Morgan shipped it to the Louvre, where it remains today. Within a year, scholars had translated the cuneiform and recognized its significance. Here was written law predating Moses by 5 centuries, influencing Hebrew scripture's own legal codes. The similarities are striking. Both feature eye-for-eye retribution. Both regulate contracts and property. Both structure family relationships through law. But where Mosaic law claims divine origin and universal application, Hammurabi's code is explicitly royal propaganda, a king demonstrating his wisdom and piety to subjects and gods alike. The Code of Hammurabi wasn't replaced because it was unjust. It was replaced because empires fell. Babylon's dominance faded. New conquerors brought new laws. But Hammurabi's influence lasted centuries. Scribes copied the code for over 1,500 years. Students studied it. Judges referenced it. Replicas exist worldwide, including at the United Nations headquarters and the U.S. Supreme Court building, where Hammurabi appears alongside Moses, Justinian, and other historic lawgivers. We remember him not for mercy, but for codification, for making law public, accessible, predictable. In 1754 B.C., for the first time in recorded history, citizens could know exactly what was illegal and exactly what punishment they faced. That's revolutionary, even if the punishments themselves were horrifying. Law existed. Compassion didn't. But at least everyone knew the rules. That's Hammurabi's legacy. Justice without mercy, carved into stone and displayed for all to see. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a hand for striking your father, a life for a life, unless you're wealthy enough to pay silver instead. Brutal, unequal, and written in stone that would outlast the empire that created it.